So I'm here at Chicago Executive Airport, and the pilots come in, and I posted this on Instagram, that there are different facilities that the pilots need. These are short haul flights, and so they can stop and catch a bite to eat while the plane should get checked over before it flies out again. Yeah, every plane, when it lands, it needs to get inspected before it flies out again. And so it needs to get its fuel measured, checking the gauges, but they need to dip the tanks. Yeah, you need to dip the tanks. So they need to check the fuel in the tanks physically to make sure the gauges are correct. And so they need to dip the tanks. And you can weigh the plane prior to fueling is another way. And then weigh it after fueling before you put on any passengers or bags. So you get the weight of the plane prior to fueling, stripped of any passengers or anything. Whatever is on the plane needs to stay on the plane. And then you fill it up with fuel. And then at the other location, it rolls up on the scale. After all the baggages and passengers are off, you put it on the scale and you cross-check that way as well. So you can see the weight of the plane, and this is how you can catch bombs as well. Truly, bombs. You take the net weight of each piece of luggage. When it's scanned, it goes through all the scanners and that, but they must weigh it as well. And then they take the aggregate weight of every bag. And this also catches them if they steal anything. So the baggage, the plane needs to be weighed after the baggage is put on. And if it's off, and yes, if it's off by a thousandths because how accurate the scale is weighing, it can go to hundredths or thousandths or the millionths. Yeah, each bag can be weighed to the millionths. And so you put each bag on, and when it gets on, you re-weigh the plane again. And it should be accurate to the millionths. Nothing else should have been added. And so if it's off, even a millionth, that means there's something there that shouldn't be there, right? Something there that shouldn't be there. That means also that if it's heavy, something there shouldn't be there. But if it's light, that means the ground crew stole something. Somebody took something out of somewhere and the weight is off. So even backpacks and that, they get scanned, but they get weighed. And so when the flight attendant takes the ticket, if you got a carry-on, you got to weigh the carry-on again before you get on the plane. You got to weigh the carry-on and you weigh the person. They just stand there. There's a scale under them. So at the check-in, they weigh the person. And you're told to wear the same thing onto the plane that you checked in with. So you say this is for matching. So you must physically wear the same outfit at the gate that you checked in with at the airport. So you can't change your shoes or anything else. And then they just stand there and they're checking the ticket to match it with the passenger, but the passenger's standing on the scale. That way you know if there's a shoe bomb or anything else, did he add any weight? Truly. And you can record it to the millionths. Now, people might go and buy stuff and they get change. But remember, they weigh them without the change. You got to empty your pockets. So before you get on the plane, you got to empty your pockets. Empty your pockets. Because they got to make sure what you took into the airport is the only thing you have on you going on to the plane. It's no big deal. So they just have a point. They're checking everybody in to get onto the plane, and they have to empty their pockets then. So you empty your pockets, you get on, and you go on the other side, and it shows they don't ever see the wait. They just stand there. They're told to stand there while they check the ticket. They don't need to know there's a scale there. They don't need to know that there's a scale. Even when they check them in, when they do the vroom, 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 they weigh them also. They weigh them also. Just like going into prison. You have somebody visiting somebody. You weigh them going in. They have to go through the scanner. You weigh them going in, and then you weigh them coming out. Then so if they have a flash drive or some piece of paper, and so you can go to the millionth or tens of millionths. So if they even have a little bit piece of paper or microfiche, so go to the billionths. It will weigh them that accurately. They get on, they got to match again. And so it takes into account breathing. You're weighing them. They're standing there for a second. And you'll see, and it should match up as they breathe in and out. It'll fluctuate a little bit. Truly. But you're matching them up, and if it's off, then they might have a microfiche. They might have a flash drive. They might have a piece of paper. They have something on them that they didn't have coming into the prison. Or they gave something because they come back lighter, not heavier. And so it's the same thing. It's a matching system. And they did this after 9/11. You matched the person with the baggage. But it's very important for all this stuff that package handlers, they weigh so they got all the stuff from the manufacturer, right? They know all the manufacturer tells the weight of the product. Every product that's produced, the manufacturer tells you an exact weight in the bottle. So if they put something besides that in the bottle, they're not going to match because of particle density and they're not going to match accurately. So what you're looking for is a difference in weight. And it's another way to make airport security by matching them in weight, right? Now, okay, if their bladder's full and their bladder's not, but you can look at the camera. And yes, if they're drinking something or eating something. But again, there's going to be things that you can cross-check through the AI. And you know the weight of the hot dog and so on. So you can match these things. And so you understand they had drinks or beverages or so on. And that's an add to weight. Or they could have taken a dump or taken a leak. Okay. But the camera system can do all these calculations really quick. So, and when people go into the bathroom, the scanners should be making sure when they go into the restroom, they're taking a pee or poop. The scanners got to verify what's going down the toilet, right? Got to verify. If you go into the restroom and you don't do anything, it's not a changing room, and you're told not to change in the restroom. So for people using the bathroom and so on. But you think this is extreme, but just like they went into the train bathroom and they weren't using the restroom, they were pulling out the knives and so on. So the one movie, and anyways, the weight of the shoe from the manufacturer, if they put on a little QR code in that, they can scan it and it tells you the weight of the shoe. Now, there's tread wear and tear, and you can make off. But if you have a bomb in there, it's going to be a different weight. Just like weight, if you have a surgical implant, whether a pacemaker or something else, it's going to tell you the weight of the pacemaker. It's going to tell you the weight of the surgical implant. They know the precise weight of the devices. So if you had a hip implant or something, they get you on the scale and it matches. And then you can also use magnets, truly depending on what the metal is and so on. to test the structural integrity, making sure they're not hiding something inside, because all of a sudden the weight will be off. The implant is lighter, right? They implanted something inside the hip implant, the surgical device. They implanted something inside of it. So if you know what the hell you're doing, it's very easy to catch bad people. Meaning, once you get the systems down, the systems will work. And it's very hard when you start weighing into the thousands or millions to be that accurate with bad things. You know, any kind of chemical agents or anything like that. So you can account for all that. And people swallowing stuff in the balloons, right? Remember the mules that used to fly heroin? And they would swallow the balloons. The heroin was inside the rubber balloon, right? They used balloons, and then they would swallow it, and then they would poop it out. And they would swallow a bunch of balloons, because a little bit of heroin is worth a lot. So a balloon full of heroin, and now so sometimes the balloons, the digestive system ate through enough where it broke and they would overdose on the plane. But most of the time they got it right. And because of an accident, they found out that these people are smuggling. But you can swallow a balloon full of explosives, truly liquid explosive, and you put it in the balloon, you swallow it, and then you take a laxative, you shit it out, you open the thing, and then you have the liquid explosive, right? So you got to see what's in the stomach content or in the intestines. That's how they did it with prison. They put it in a balloon and shove it up their ass. Or some kind of, ceiling, and they shove it up their butt, or they shove it up their vaginal canal. Yeah, their vaginal canal. Females, they shove it up their vaginal canal, and then they would just pull it out. So usually they use balloons, but there's other material, I guess. But they put it inside themselves. So it's another way. And I met a guy who smuggled in a diamond into Tucson for the gem show. And now he was from Africa. And I was talking to him, and he said, yeah, how did I smuggled in a diamond that was not declared, and I smuggled it in. It was extra, and I sold that on the black market on the side, and he paid for everything with the smuggled diamond. Now, he wasn't doing anything illegal, but it was a way to pay for, not to have to declare it and pay taxes and other things. And so he sold a gem on the side to pay for his thing. He told me I smuggled one extra gem in, and I sold it at the show on the black market. Basically, somebody bought it, under the table, and I paid for everything that way. He was talking to me at Dirtbags. But people smuggle in diamonds, blood diamonds. So you can swallow a diamond in the plastic, put it in the balloon and swallow it, and then you poop it out. Remember Up in Smoke, Cheech and Chong? The dog ate all the marijuana, and they were following the dog around every time it took a dump to get the marijuana. It's true. So again, you need to understand how they move things. Like they smuggle things in tires. You can smuggle things in tires of planes. So ground crews, when they do stuff, if they're working together, they can put stuff in the plane. Like the flight attendant at O'Hare Airport, black flight attendant, she happened to be black. These are all true stories. I'm not singling out black people, but the people I know in these stories were black. The guy smuggled it in he was black from Africa, and the flight attendant working on the plane in Chicago, she was black. And she was smuggling cocaine on airplanes. But that means she could have smuggled all kinds of things in. But she was smuggling cocaine. Now, they caught her, but the funny thing with the story, when they were going to bust her, she escaped from O'Hare Airport, got in a car, got all the way downtown home, and then finally they caught her at her house. But she made it all the way through the airport, and they were trying, how can you make it out of the airport if they're trying to arrest you? She made it as a flight attendant from the plane. When it got on the ground, they were going to arrest her. They were waiting for her. They knew she smuggled it. They were waiting for her to land. She made it from the plane, through the airport, all the way downtown to her place, and probably was packing up to go. And she got busted at her house in Chicago. How the hell can that happen? But it truly did. Isn't that horrible airport security? Truly. So anyways, she was smuggling just like Probert was for the Hawks. He's a white guy. And they played in Canada. So these teams going across the border he would get the drugs in Canada, put them in with his hockey bag, and take them back to Chicago. And he was moving all kinds of kilos of cocaine. He was a sports player. He's not the only one. The black running back for Pittsburgh Steelers, he was moving, I don't know how many pounds, but he got busted in the back of his car moving all kinds of illegal drugs. I mean, it was marijuana, but I'm talking hundreds, a lot of drugs. Way more marijuana, and the most I ever moved was 60 pounds. He was way beyond anything I moved. And they busted him. And he was playing professional football. But because he was an athlete in that, he got a waiver. It's interesting how they use these things, their sports, their fame, to move things without anyone noticing. And that's why I told you all pilots in that need to be scanned. They got to go through the same checks. They can have an individual check, but they got to go through the same type of scanners when they go on and off the plane. Because there's a lot of times they move a lot of contraband. And I just had a semi come by me, but there's a lot of illegal stuff they move in semis. That they were moving all kinds of drugs in semis, in the gas tanks of semis. I know I had some of it, cocaine. It was smuggled inside the gas tank. It was smuggled inside the tire. They had it smuggled inside the engine. They put it inside the engine. They were putting it in all kinds of different places and smuggling it in. That's why the weight, so you have to get the log, they have